Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome you to a new League of Legends video. So this is gonna be somewhat of a sad video because I'm gonna be going over what recently happened to Talon. But if you are unaware what happened, let's quickly go through it. Talon's E got nerfed to the point where he no longer silences with it. But instead now he slows for 99% for just a quarter of a second. And let's be honest, that is quite a large hit, and I have several reasons I wrote down as to why I think this really destroyed Talon. And at the end of the video, I want to give you guys my proposed change, something that I think they should have done instead to nerf Talon while still keeping the silence. So let's get into all the points that I want to talk about as to why I think this nerf is quite the hit towards Talon. The first thing I want to point out is just simply I have not been getting very good games with him ever since the nerf. I played about 6 or 7 games with Talon, and all 6 and 7 of them, even one game I played on my Smurf in the gold elo, were all pretty bad games. Now just to point out, I'm not exactly a bad Talon player. In fact, I have a 17-2 win ratio on my Smurf Zed Mercy that is in the high plat to low diamond elo. And in all honesty, he was my go-to champion whenever I wanted more or less a guaranteed win in ranked. But now I'm quite terrified to pick him. And believe it or not, that one silence is enough to make me feel like that about him. To me, this is one of those things where he feels the same overall. Like, you know, when you play him, you still have the same playstyle, you still jump, you still auto-tag Q, you still use him in more or less the same way. But he feels the same, but he also feels so different. You know that saying that's like, you don't know what you had until you lose it? Well, this is exactly that. Before the silence, I almost always took it for granted. I'm just like, yeah, you know, he has a silence, it's great, whatever. It helps a bit, I guess. But now that he lost it, and now that I'm trying to make the same plays like I would before, and the silence is just MIA completely, I can really feel the impact. So now let's go slightly more in depth as to why I think the silence hurt him so much. The first thing I want to point out is his new E, the slow, the 99% for a quarter of a second does seem somewhat trivial. Because one of Talon's main spell that you rely on for almost half the game as your primary damage, his W, does have its own slow built in. And the slow that it provides is usually more than enough. But with that being said, the only usefulness I found so far for his slow is during the laning phase whenever your jungler comes in for a gank, especially someone like Elise, Amumu, or Vi, someone with a skill shot. Because that 99% slow will pretty much guarantee that they'll land their skill shot unless the opponent burns flash. So that's the first point. The slow is somewhat trivial and completely unnecessary to his kit because his W already provides a more than enough slow. Oh, and plus the W is pretty much AoE. The next point I want to talk about is being able to cancel channel abilities. For instance, if someone is using the teleport summoner spell to go somewhere, you have no way of stopping it anymore. If someone like Fiddlesticks is using his drain on you, well, you have to run, there's nothing you can do about it. If someone like Fiddlesticks or Nunu is channeling their ultimate, again, nothing you can do anymore. At least Cassidy's silence got removed, but he can still cancel channel abilities. The next point I want to talk about that I think is a very solid point, and something I really never thought about, is the fact that Talon is the only mid lane meta assassin champion that has one gap closer. Think about it, Zed has his W and his ultimate, Fizz has his Q and his Trickster, Akali has 3 dashes on her ultimate, Katarina has her Shunpa, which obviously can reset and she can keep using it, and Yasuo has several dashes with his E. Although those assassin style champions have several ways to continue to stick onto their opponents. But Talon before and now only has his E, but at least before, with the silence, he can actually stick on his opponent because they're unable to instantly react and just completely get away. But with the new Cutthroat, the opponent can easily just flash away, use some jumping ability, or someone like Tristana can just ult you away and or jump away, and you have zero way to follow up. And that does somewhat bring me to my next point, because Talon would always be the champion that I pick in order to counter probably the most OP ADCs in the game, Tristana and Lucian. Especially Tristana. Because with the old Talon you can jump on them and you can get a lot of the damage off before they can flash, jump, dash, or ult you away. But now if you were to jump on someone like Tristana, she'll ult you away, she'll jump away, she'll flash away. She has so many ways to get away from Talon now that after she does any of those 3, there's literally nothing Talon can do to get back onto her. And the only thing he can do is that after he uses the E, that his Q auto attack procs a critical strike hit and he bursts her down just from that. And that's also assuming that you're extremely ahead, that your critical strike damage is enough to burst down Tristana like that. So with all of that being said, let's be honest, his damage is still there. I mean, he is still Talon in terms of bursting people down. And as you're about to see in this clip right here, you can still obviously get the upper hand as a true assassin, but that's only if the opponent is completely unsuspecting, and of course you pretty much rely on the crit from your Q. But if you ever try doing that in a team fight, it is almost impossible to get the damage off unless again you get really lucky with the critical strike. And that's also assuming that you're somewhat ahead. But if you're up against any opponents that have even decent reaction, there's just too many things they can do to get away from Talon, and there's too little things Talon can do now to get back onto them. Kinda like the comparison I made before with other assassins. If they do not get the kill on their initial engage, they have so many other things they can do to follow up that target. But Talon does not. So those are my reasons as to why I think the new Talon is really not all that good, and honestly, he is not even a top pick anymore. Now do keep in mind this is somewhat of an early analysis of the new Talon. Maybe things will change as the days go on and weeks go on, who knows. But before I end off this video, I want to quickly propose my idea for what I think Talon's nerf should have been. What I think they should have done is took his silence's E and changed the silence duration from 1 second to maybe half a second, or maybe even 0.3 seconds. So he can still have that small window as an assassin with mainly all-in potential, all or nothing, and to still get a slight upper hand on the target if he strikes first. And he's still able to cancel channel abilities like Malzahar, Ultimate, Nunu, Fiddle, or even stop teleports. And still give him the true assassin feeling rather than what he is now. A very risky assassin, someone that is not reliant anymore, and someone that just lost a lot of important utility. All they did with his E is just give him something he already had with his W. In my opinion, it's somewhat of a lazy